It certainly is a privilege to serve the agriculture and rural industry doing what we do. The National Association of Farm Broadcasting has farm broadcasters from coast to coast, so I encourage you to tune into your radio station and find out if you have a farm broadcaster giving news, agricultural information, event information, market reports, and of course, weather every day. Conservation fits right into what we're doing because we know that farmers and ranchers are the true stewards of the land. With no further ado, we'll go ahead and get started into our first panel here today on urban agriculture. At this time, I'd like to invite our panelists to come and join me on the stage. Our first panelist is Mr. Andrew Smiley. He is president of the Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. Joining him as well is Miss Abby Henderson, founder of the Come Up Project, and Mr. Stephen Darcey, district manager, Prince George's Soil Conservation Districts. Thank you. Please be seated. I will join you over there in just a moment. We'll start off our panel by having each one of our distinguished panelists talk a little bit more about themselves, their backgrounds, and what their organization is and what they do. Again, this is the Urban Agriculture panel to get us started. So we'll go ahead and start on the end.
Me?
You. Yes, sir.
Good morning. All I can say is Kyler Pepper rocks. That was absolutely amazing and so impressive. So for those of you who know me, if you give me an open mic and time to talk about agriculture and conservation, you folks may be missing lunch today. But Lorrie's going to keep us on track. So first, I'd like to begin by thanking Jeremy for the invitation to be here today. Prince George's Soil Conservation District, we have a great story to tell, and I'm very proud to be here and try to share a little bit about that. I'm a fourth generation Prince George's County farmer, born and raised raising tobacco, corn, soybeans, cattle, swine, horses, flowers, vegetables, a little bit of everything. And our farm is located only 10 miles from the nation's capital. We have very good, highly productive soils. You can pretty much raise any crop there. Unfortunately, you can also raise very good houses, and a lot of them. So our biggest pressure staying in agriculture is the development pressure and the congestion pressure that we have around us. In 1986, I was blessed to be hired by the local Prince George's Soil Conservation District. I've been there for 33 years. I have a very supportive board. They give me a lot of freedom and flexibility to reach out and try to do new things. So as a typical soil water conservation district, we have our rural program where we work with farmers. We also have an urban program where we're tasked with review and approval of all erosion and sediment control plans in the county. We also are the only soil conservation district in Maryland to administer ag land preservation programs for the local county government. We also have a very active outreach and education program, including the Varathon and working with the public school system. Well, we're very excited now to have a brand new program, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, and that's our Urban Ag Conservation Program. So as urban ag has grown and the momentum has grown in our county, it became evident to me and my staff and my board that nobody was really looking at the conservation aspect of urban agriculture. Prince George's County is 300,000+ acres. We have 900,000 residents in our county, so it's pretty congested. Only 20% of that 300,000 acres is rural agriculture. The rest is industrial, commercial, and a lot of residential. Through the wisdom of our local county council, 2 pieces of legislation were passed. One giving a property tax credit to anyone engaging in urban ag if they produced $2,500 in product every year. They named the Soil Conservation District as the go-to agency to help them with the application. So that was a feather in our cap. The second piece of legislation that came along was the definition of urban ag and zoning for all residential property in Prince George's County, the ability to do agriculture. That really opened the door because we, again, were named in that legislation as the go-to agency. In Prince George's County, Maryland, if you want to be recognized as an urban farm, you have to be a cooperator with your local district. You have to be operating under a soil and water conservation plan. So that's been very exciting for us. As we move forward, we missed the first round of the NACD UAC grant process, so we started building our partnerships. University of Maryland, USDA, Maryland Department of Agriculture, Food Equity Council, the County Council, the Executive's Office. We built this partnership and they supported us in our grant effort. We came up with a model and a plan and we went forward. We were able to hire a retired district conservationist who was very much involved in urban ag. And now a year later, two great benefits have come out of this grant. One is we are now in a 3-year contribution agreement grant with our partner NRCS, and we've also got a brand new full-time urban ag planner funded fully by our local county government, and she started yesterday. So we're very pleased about that. We're looking forward to doing a lot of things, and I'm enjoy being here and discussing urban ag conservation.
I already learned a lot just listening to your introduction. Thank you for being here, for sure.
Thank you for having me.
As we continue with our panel today, there will be time for question and answer from the audience, so you might start jotting down any thoughts you have as our panelists are introducing themselves. Ms. Henderson, would you please tell us a little bit more about you and your project or program?
Yes, greetings. Everything I say is out of love, unconditional love for everyone. I am Abiodun Henderson. I'd be remiss if I don't honor my ancestors from the Kru tribe of Liberia, who were the hardest to enslave. And I'd also be remiss if I don't honor the Native Americans of this country who were the conservationists, of this nation, giving extreme honor to those Native folks that knew how to do it. So I come out of Atlanta. I created the Come Up Project and a program called Gangsters to Growers for formerly incarcerated 18 to 24-year-olds in the city of Atlanta. It's an agribusiness training program where we pay the young people $15 an hour over a 3-month period, 40 hours a week, to learn how to grow food. They start their day with yoga from several different yogis. Then they work on urban farms all over the city. I'm thankful to be in a city where I lived in a neighborhood where there was 6 urban gardens and farms within a 1-mile radius that were also in desperate need of labor. So they work on these urban farms through SWAG, Southwest Atlanta Growers Cooperative, and through the West Georgia Farmers Cooperative, which is our rural farmers that we support that also are in desperate need of labor. And then they also make a hot sauce, which we get straight from the land. It's called Sweet Soul. It has lavender, turmeric, dark muscovado sugar, apple cider vinegar, pink Himalayan salt, alkaline water, just everything that you want and need in your body. And then throughout the week and the afternoon, because these young people that though they're 18 to 24, which here in this country we call that adults, and the young people will say, I'm grown, they aren't, right? They're living in these poor communities, and when I compare these young black youth to my board president, who's 23, a graduate of Morehouse College, he is grown, right? He carries a certain energy. He knows where he's going. He knows what he's doing. These 18 to 24-year-olds that have been locked up, they are literally like children that still need to be raised. Yes? So in the afternoon throughout the week, we do group therapy every week, political education, so they understand their local government and how to influence their local government, school board and city council. We do writing classes, financial literacy, business classes at a local university, Clark Atlanta, a local historically Black university. So, and I say that to say that it's very important for these young Black youth to see other Black people that are able to move successfully in the world. Because in their community, there's only 2 or 3 different examples on how to be human. And they tend to be negative because of the poverty. You have these communities that are very stressed out and they operate in that way. So we have the business classes. We have worker cooperative development, which every Gangsters to Growers trainee is a lifelong member. They become part of a worker-owned cooperative where we make this hot sauce, and eventually we'll make all different products out of hemp, paper towels, toilet tissue, you know, all of the things. And they also do environmental responsibility, where they learn how to be zero wasters, you know, the extreme version of being a conservationist, right? They're giving a water bottle, a real plate, real napkin, real silverware at the beginning of the program. And whenever we eat a meal, which we do serve breakfast and lunch, they receive points for making sure they have those materials so that we're not creating more plastic waste in the environment. And just a whole host of classes. Like, I invite all of you to come and do a 1 hour, 1.5 workshop with the youth, just so that they are inundated with all this information that we are all so privileged to have. But yeah, we're about providing labor. We're about growing more food in our communities and manufacturing items and creating things so that we can get rid of poverty and create generational wealth where we do not have to depend on anyone but ourselves.
It is so interesting and exciting to hear the social issues that are being addressed through farming, through urban agriculture. And Mr. Darcey, or excuse me, I moved up, Mr. Smiley, excuse me.
Yeah, thanks. So, well, I do want to start by thanking the National Association of Conservation Districts for putting on this program. I think, you know, I applaud y'all for really understanding the priority and recognizing the priority that is urban agriculture and how it can go hand in hand with commercial scale production agriculture. So I was born and raised in South Louisiana, a place where we don't eat to live, we live to eat. So food was always a center of my upbringing. But I look back on that now and I think we grew our own food, and I always thought it was because we were poor that we grew our own food, because everybody else was going to McDonald's, going to Pizza Hut, going out to eat. We were going out to the garden. It wasn't until later in life now that I realized what a wealth that really represents, the ability to grow my own food. So it's that introduction that I've carried with me through my professional career. I worked with the Louisiana Organic Association to implement state-level organic standards, and followed that with several years working in economic development with an agricultural economic development firm in Baton Rouge. I also worked with the Southern Sustainable Agriculture Working Group, training farmers in how to use technology for communications and marketing. This was at a time when, well, it was before Facebook, and when most people still didn't have an email account. So this was breaking, you know, this was groundbreaking stuff at the time. For the last several years, the last dozen or so, I worked in Austin with Sustainable Food Center, which supports healthy food systems through community gardening, school gardening, farm marketing work, and healthy cooking classes. And then the last couple of years I spent as a policy director for an agricultural commissioner candidate, and now as president of the Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. So I've got, I guess, about a 25-year history or so in working in agriculture. You know, I've seen over the years so many different examples of urban agriculture, and I think later on we might get into a discussion of some of these examples. But we've seen, you know, of course, school gardens that teach young people about the importance of food and that help connect young people with their food. We see food banks now, including the food bank here in San Antonio that's got a huge garden that grows food for hunger relief efforts and also teaches healthy food gardening lessons to help folks understand more about growing their own food. In my neighborhood in Austin, there are 4 working urban farms. There's Boggy Creek Farm that's been around for about 30 years or so as a commercial scale farm with an on-site farm market. We have Springdale Farm that has a restaurant right on site, and they also operate a farm stand 2 days out of the week. We've got Rain Lily Farm. They have evolved from a landscaping company into a specialty crop operation, a fruit and vegetable operation, and they also run a home delivery service featuring the product from their farm and other farms in the area. And then we have Urban Roots, which is a youth development program, not dissimilar to the work, Abby, that you're doing, to teach young people not just about agriculture, but also about community engagement and leadership. So many different examples that we've seen, or that I've been able to see over the years. Through Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association, we provide support for commercial scale producers and also for smaller scale urban agricultural programs. We do this in a number of ways. We have regional trainings and farm tours where folks in the various regions around Texas can go and see examples and get technical farm tours of farm operations. We also do a lot of advocacy work, advocating at the state and at the local level for policies that are supportive of urban agriculture and agriculture in general. And then finally, we also do an annual conference where we bring folks together and provide over the course of 3 days informational workshops and sessions and hands-on activities. Quick plug on that, if you don't mind. Our annual conference is coming up next week, starting February 14th, and it'll be held in Corpus Christi. So all you folks from Maryland can come back down, escape the cold, come to the beach. It's going to be sunny and warm. We've already arranged that. But that's a little bit about the work that Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association does now in terms of our education and advocacy work.
Fantastic. Definitely a common thread as you each were speaking on focus on education and also on youth, and we'll come back to that. I want to ask each of you, and again, we'll start here on in with Mr. Darcey and work our way back. It might be obvious, but it might not, based on what you were saying in your introduction. How do you define urban agriculture? How does your organization define urban agriculture?
Well, everybody has a different definition for urban ag. Webster defines agriculture as the science, art, or practice of producing vegetables and raising livestock. They do not define urban agriculture, so I think we could simply take that same definition and end it in an urban environment. So I don't think you need to have a very difficult definition. In our local government ordinance for zoning, it's a one-page definition. I think that's a little bit overkill, but it's basically production, process, and distribution of food in an urban environment.
Ms. Henderson.
Yeah, I agree. And for us, when I look around our hoods and you know, there's a bus that passes by one of the premier urban farms, Truly Living Well, in Atlanta. That's kind of our home base for our program. You know, and then I look at Gilliam's Community Garden, where in the cut they have 3 acres, and they have goats and chickens and, you know, goats and chickens and dogs and just all this land, and they're doing their thing. And my young people, if they're running late, can hop off the train and walk 3 blocks, you know, to that oasis, right? You know, just the density, the population, what's happening around these urban farms. We got Urban Shamba, which is in the back of this grower's house, where she has farm animals and is growing massive amounts of food that we help support her to grow. You know, across the street from the Dunkin' Donuts is Mama Haleen, the garden queen. If you meet her, that's what you'll hear. I'm Mama Haleen, the garden queen, and I've been, you know, and she grows tropical fruits in the back of her house across from the Dunkin' Donuts and near the grocery store. So urban is just the density, the population, the sidewalks, you know, and the mass transportation that's surrounding us. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Smiley, same question. How do you define urban agriculture?
Yeah, I think Steve kind of nailed it in terms of production, processing, marketing, distribution, just like you would find in any agricultural setting, except the setting here is urban within a city. And I gave a few examples earlier, like school gardens, working farms that have on-site farm markets and farm stands. We see some other really cool examples too in Austin and throughout Texas, like Paul Quinn College up in North Texas near Dallas, where they took their football field and turned it into a vegetable farming operation. Because, well, the football program wasn't really, and that's like almost blasphemy here in Texas, y'all. But the football program wasn't really, you know, wasn't really a success in the terms that they wanted it. So they transitioned that beautiful space into agricultural production. We see some other really good examples of urban agriculture, also like urban farm stands. Folks who aggregate product and then will drive around to schools and libraries in areas that may be underserved by traditional grocery retail and sell the product that way. So bringing the food where the people are. And I think that's one of the key elements of urban agriculture is going to the population centers and bringing the food to those centers, whether it is the production or just the distribution or even processing.
So how do you get people to buy into this idea, to want to do this?
You know, I think everybody's got a connection to food somehow or another. You know, one of the things that got me involved originally was that agriculture represented that intersection of environmental concerns along with economic sustainability, plus that cultural element of celebrating around food. And so with those 3 elements, which happen to also be the 3 legs of our sustainability stool, right? I think there's an on-ramp for everybody there. And I think that lesson of going where the people are is pretty key, again. Going to the schools where parents are picking up their kids, going to the libraries where folks are gathering for classes or what have you, but really meeting people where they are, both literally, geographically, and figuratively, and then taking those incremental steps with them to try a carrot. Next week they'll buy a bunch, or to provide recipes that substitute in a few vegetables into some very familiar meals, so that next week they're cooking the same stuff for their families. It's just a little healthier. So meeting folks where they are and taking that first step with them.
Mr. Darcey, with your program, how do you feel like something what you have going on in your area can be a larger model or evolve into a larger model for food security purposes?
That's a good question. You know, there are a lot of different folks out there, different organizations that are really pushing the urban ag model. We're looking at it from a conservation standpoint, which we are very good at selling soil and water conservation programs. But with 900,000 residents in the county, we have a huge opportunity now to reach more people than we ever imagined. So it's all about building those partnerships and finding out what other groups, for instance, the Food Equity Council, and they're all about food security, University of Maryland, the Master Gardeners Program. You need to build those partnerships to make this successful. But if we can reach just a small percentage of 900,000 people, that's really huge. And I'm not talking about just the kids. I'm talking about adults. I think one of the real issues in our society now, as people have gotten further away from the farm and the land, they're losing their ability to connect where their food comes from. If we can educate folks in the urban area where their food comes from, get an appreciation for their soil and clean water, we will build strength in our communities, we will build sustainability in our communities, and as a country, that's important, because if you cannot feed yourself, you're doomed. So I'm a big proponent of that, and reaching out to all of these citizens through our efforts and through our partners' efforts to get that security, that food security network.
Can you give us an example of what an urban agriculture farm looks like in your area or in your program? What does it grow? How many acres?
Sure. Can you show that video for me? No. Well, actually, this is our newest flyer, and I'll be giving at the Urban Ag Symposium tomorrow. If all 800 people would like to come listen, we can show some slides. But it's really kind of a beautiful scene if you see an apartment complex with a big community garden in front of it. There's flowers growing, there's vegetables, and there are people out there tilling the soil, digging their sweet potatoes and harvesting their greens. And the people I have talked to, the older people really, the older generation that are retired, they don't really have a lot of opportunities to get out and be involved. These community gardens and centrally located in a highly urbanized area are giving these folks the opportunity to do something. They're going out and raising vegetables, taking it back and fixing food, fresh food for their grandkids and their children. And the older population likes it as much as the kids like it. The younger population, they really enjoy getting their hands dirty and getting down into the soil and watching a seed grow into a plant and end up on their plate. I mean, that's really exciting. And for Soil Conservation District, I just want to put a plug in while I have a chance. This conference is about mission focused, and we as Soil Conservation District, in very simple terms, our mission is to develop and implement locally led soil and water conservation programs. That's our mission. So you need to reach out and find that new group of folks that we don't traditionally work with and sell our product to them, provide that technical resource. We, Soil Conservation Districts, 3,000 strong, we're the experts in soil and water conservation management. So this gives us a grand opportunity to reach multitude of people in our communities and across the nation.
It kind of adds into that question that I asked Mr. Smiley about how do you get people to buy into it. So the work you do is definitely part of that.
Yep.
I had this question written down. I wasn't sure who I would ask, but I think, Ms. Henderson, as you were speaking, this is definitely made for you. You mentioned so many different elements and levels to your program, and I'm sure just based on what you're saying, you're only scratching the surface of everything that's really going on. You talked about the social aspect. You talked about the actual act of urban agriculture. You gave me some examples on livestock. But what about the ecology? How is it helping the ecology within the Atlanta area or the region that you serve?
Yeah, what we're doing is just reminding people of what they did before. As Black Americans, we were, or Africans, we were brought here because of our agricultural knowledge. When we are in these neighborhoods, talking to the elders, they're like, oh yeah, they used to grow food over there, and Miss Mama used to grow food over here, and we used to share the food, but yeah, you know, after the crack era, we don't do that much anymore. You know, so really acknowledging all those aspects, right? That the ecology, you know, building that back again, and recognizing that Africans were brought here because of their agricultural knowledge to grow the food for the nation. And because of the creation of processed foods and labor and needing money, or, you know, more money than before to survive, folks had to go get jobs or work three different jobs, and, you know, Big Mama ain't in the garden anymore like she used to be. And there was, you know, that knowledge was cut off, you know, the generational knowledge of just being self-sufficient was cut off, along, you know, with the addition of welfare and all these different things, where Black people in America were very self-sufficient. So yeah, we're just really just reminding people of what they used to do, reminding people of the food that they used to eat, and just creating an environment of self-sufficiency and knowledge. And, you know, like I tell everyone, love, unconditional love, knowledge, and because we needed money, will really cure the ills of these impoverished communities. So yeah, that ecology of just where, you know, we have folks that are now making sure that people, again, have their backyard gardens, and they're growing 1 or 2 crops, and someone else is growing a different 2 crops, and now, you know, they're able to share food again like they used to do. So just bring it back.
Excellent. I was jotting down some notes as all 3 of you were speaking. This is a general theme that I've heard from all of your answers and your intros today. Just creating a general awareness about food and agriculture. Education, all different levels of education. A physical aspect, getting out there, getting your hands in the dirt, getting moving. A sense of self-sufficiency or accomplishment when you have the end product that you can actually consume. Environmental protection and inclusion, a sense of social inclusion. Any others to add to that I might have missed?
I think you summed it up pretty well. I like to think of 4 things. When you look at urban ag and urban ag conservation, it's TEEE. I mean, HEEE, health, education, environment, and economic development. And all of those go hand in hand. And with a really good program and good partnerships, we can address all 4 of those aspects. And I think we can really do, when I say we, I'm talking about my brothers and sisters in soil conservation around the country, with partnering with folks like this. We can make a difference in an arena of citizens that we've really never reached out to before. I think it really opens a lot of opportunities for our district and every other district, because, I mean, the country is growing. It's a huge urban population and suburban population. Everybody needs the soil. So everybody lives off the soil. They utilize the soil. Sometimes we mismanage the soil, but it's all interconnected, the soil and the water and the air and the food that we all need. So I think it's very important to pursue this initiative.
All right. Was there anything else to add? Otherwise, I have one last quick question for you.
I just appreciate the inclusion of economic development in the description of urban agriculture. It is certainly, you know, you walk past a garden in an urban setting or a farm in a neighborhood, and it's a living billboard that, you know, that tells you, this is where food comes from. But it is also an opportunity for folks in an urban setting to supplement their income. We've seen several really great examples of folks not just kind of taking back the power of feeding themselves, but also taking back power by growing a small business and selling what they grow through cooperatives or through just a little on-farm stand. So that economic development shouldn't be overlooked when we're talking about micro-scale or small-scale urban farms.
Thank you. Thanks for mentioning it.
And really quick, you know, unconditional love and historical context is something that we definitely need in the room as we talk about soil conservation. Really, I would love at the next conference to see a lot more Native American folks in the room, and folks that have, you know, that have this knowledge in their genes, you know, in the room. And just in a loving way, let's recognize who came before us and what it was, and, you know, the contributions of all the different folks that live in this country to this generation of food. Yeah.
I think that's a valid point. All right. Last but not least, I'm going to make you think on your feet. If you were to put something about urban agriculture on a bumper sticker, what would it be? Mr. Darcey, let's start with you. A quick phrase, saying, a meme, something.
You stumped me. Live long and prosper. I have no clue. I don't know.
Live long and prosper, though.
That wasn't on your question list, was it?
That was perfect. That was perfect.
Have you thought of one, Ms. Henderson?
I just keep picturing like greens or something on a bumper
Like
sticker.
a picture? Okay.
Yeah, picture of like just, you know, eat more greens.
There you go. Hey,
Yeah, I like that.
that's
I like
okay.
it.
That's
I
good.
like it.
I like it too.
Eat more greens.
What is
Mo
that?
greens. There we go. There we go.
The KISS concept. Keep it simple, stupid.
Is that what that's?
All right, Mr. Smiley.
Yeah, I guess I've had a little more time to think about it, which puts me on the hot seat. I'd say, I don't know, my other car is a wheelbarrow.
Oh, there you go. All right. Good job. Okay, that was tough.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
That's a good one.
That was a good one. Let's market it.
Yeah, I sideswiped these folks a little bit because that was not on the question list. But, you know, that's what you get when you have a radio gal come up here and do this. Okay. At this time, we will open it up now to the audience to ask you questions. There are some friendly NACD staff that have microphones. If you wouldn't mind using that microphone so we can hear you loud and clear, you can direct a question to all three panelists or one or two or whatever the question may be. So there's a gentleman right there in the middle with his hand raised. There's a mic over there in the corner. He's right here down the middle aisle. Thank you for standing up. That's a good idea. Stand up. Can you hear him very well? Okay, just talk loud.
Some of them, Ms. Henderson, you commented that one of the purposes was to give some of these young people perhaps a new job opportunity on production farms. How has that worked? Have many of the urban young people been able to move into the more rural areas and actually get involved in larger scale agriculture?
Well, our program is new. We just finished our first 3-month-long program that ended on January 25th. And just to be honest, I've been the type of organizer that moves without a lot of capital. You know, I ran a garden for 5 years without I think I've gotten like $1,000 the whole time I ran the garden. I just depended on other farmers for seeds and, you know, folks in the community for labor. I did a camp for 3 years in a row where the last year I think we got like 7,000, but the 2 previous years we just pulled a little bit money out of our pocket and people volunteered their time and we didn't charge any of the young people in the neighborhood. So with this program, once the city of Atlanta, the workforce development, if anyone else has an idea like Gangsters Growers, you know, we went to the city, the workforce development program in the city of Atlanta, and they're the ones that pay the $15 an hour stipend for the youth. And once we got that guaranteed, I just started the program without a lot of capital, guaranteed salaries and all that kind of stuff. So our transportation was a little shoddy. We had a bus that we paid to get fixed, and it was always like, it's gonna be fixed, it's gonna be fixed. So we did a lot of Ubering around, and so we didn't really hit as many rural farms as we wanted to. But I'll say this, that Willie Williams, who's named after his great-grandfather, young man that's 24, well, just turned 25, he's been hired by Truly Living Well, you know, which is around the corner from his house and his family and everything. That has like 3 acres in the middle of the city. They also have another farm in East Point, Georgia. And then Love is Love Farm, one of our ally farmers, has hired a couple of the young people, which is on the east side of town. We really operate on the west side of town, but they're on the east side of town, and he hired 2 of the young people. So we haven't made that rural connection yet as much as we want to, but we are planning for the next program that starts in mid-March to make sure that, that we have things set up for the young people to really love the rural areas. And then also I went to high school with one of my friends that's in Senegal, West Africa, and she ended up starting the Dakar Farmers Market, and she has connection with farmers there, and she can't wait for the young people to go there and stay on the farms over there and really have that connection as well. So soon come, as Mama Helene would say, soon come.
Thank you. All right, another question in the back, it looks like, over.
Yeah, I'd like to say, Steve, thank you for representing Maryland so well, but my question is for Ms. Henderson. In Maryland, we, in our urbanized or developing areas, seem to be permitted to the nth degree regulation that we need to meet. How did the city of Atlanta actually help you kind of get through and set up and things like that?
Well, right before, not right before, but a couple of years before the program started, there wasn't any real rules when it came to urban agriculture in Atlanta. It was just like free, like, you know, do what you will. And then Alfie, the Atlanta Food, I'm not really good with acronyms, but they were a kind of like a policy group that came together and decided to, you know, lobby on or organize and talk to all the urban farmers that are in Atlanta, which we have so many, thank God, and come together about some laws and some rules and petitioned it to the cities. And now we have an urban ag office. Mario Cavernelli is over the Office of Sustainability. He's over the urban ag. So it's very new, the policies that were put in place. And there still aren't many rules. So, you know, a lot of people have chickens in the city. A lot of people are doing what they will, and people aren't complaining. So that's a great thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Again, for Ms. Henderson. Your program seems to be very targeted to a certain demographic. In acknowledging that, can you tell us a little bit about how your program has helped to reduce recidivism back into the system with those folks that you're working with?
Well, first we tell the young people, you know, at the end of the day, I got this model off of somebody in Maryland, Baltimore, I think, a sister that started a school in her house. But we tell them, I love you, and give them a hug at the end of each day, which gives them a sense of belonging, some love, and that they are seen, right? Because a lot of what's happening with the youth right now is that they feel invisible, because after the crack era, everybody kind of became an individualist, you know, because the crime was rampant and it was the time that we treated each other the worst. So we really just say, hey, we see you, we love you unconditionally. All these people, all these random people that are educating you love you. So that gives them a sense of belonging. So now they care about themselves. They love them. They start to love themselves. And when you love yourself, you're not going to put yourself in risky situations. You know, we had young people that down the street in front of the West End Mall, there was a camera that the city had set up, and they were still selling marijuana and doing drug deals in front of this camera. You can't love yourself and love your life and, you know, hold something dear when you're literally doing crime in front of a camera that you know is there. They just don't care, because no one cares about them. So that's first. And then setting them up with, you know, this knowledge, you know, educating them, giving that group therapy, nutritional cooking, feeding them well. In the morning, we have smoothies. It's not a big breakfast. Sometimes, there was a couple of times the youth cooked eggs and, you know, bacon on an electric skillet that we had. But they have smoothies, apples, oranges, bananas, and granola bars in the morning. And I'm like, did you drink water? You know, it's these small things that let them know that I care about your health, I care about you, so you better care about yourself. Which stops litter on the street, you know what I'm saying? Stops the degradation of buildings, all of that, and stops them from going to jail once they are fully loved and educated and money, you know, being able to sustain themselves. They're not gonna break into your house because I got a good job. What I look like breaking into your house, I can afford it myself.
Yeah. Thank you. Time for one more question, but our panelists will be at the speaker booth in the expo, I believe, a little bit later on today for additional questions, and we'll go right over here.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Cindy Ayers, CEO of Footprint Farms. I'm very proud to say I am an urban farmer in the state of Mississippi, in the capital city of Jackson, Mississippi. My farm is a 68-acre urban ag mega inside of the city of Jackson. Let me just say to the panelists and to others that's listening, I am very active in my soil and water conservation district. In fact, I'm the former chair and now serving as vice chair. Let me just say that USDA, NRCS, and the Soil and Water Conservation District's programs are there. It has to be included in what we do in the urban area. My farm was built with USDA, NRCS. We looked at the practices in which are available to us, but to look at it in a different way and how we include the urban setting. Right now on my farm, there's 4 full-time farmers, not working for me, but farmers with me, in which we have set up practices and programs of best practices on how not just to work, but to own your own and to utilize the programs that's available through USDA and to utilize our soil and water conservation districts. One of the things that we have to look at, that what we do is sustainable, it's economically developable, it makes money, it opens up for other opportunities in the business atmosphere. It is a business, it's not my hobby, it is my livelihood. Let me just say to us here, and especially ones who are representing urban areas, that we do have to look at what we do and how we do it differently. I am a conservative. I believe in taking care of the earth, the water, and the soil, and we can do that. We have to utilize, again, this platform that we have in order to include, but also to utilize what's available. I'm very proud to be a farmer. I'm excellently proud to be an urban farmer, making a difference in my state, in my city, and in the food deserts in which we encompass. We do have mobile markets. We actually go out to the communities where there are food deserts. We also employ community people and train them how to grow their own food. Let me just say, please look at our website and look at the best practice. We're Footprint Farms, and I'm Dr. Cindy Ayers, PhD in urban agriculture.
Come on now. Yes. Look. Yes, sister.
Okay, very
Thank you.
good.
Again, I want to thank our panelists for being here today, Mr. Darcey, Ms. Henderson, and Mr. Smiley. That will do it for this portion of the Urban Agriculture panel. We have another one following here in just a little bit. Thank you for being such a great audience. And again, let's give our panelists a round of applause.